Good day to everybody listening. Welcome to IELTS.com once more. And another in our IELTS Speaking Part 1 video lessons. Today's topic from recent questions is borrowing and lending. Now, before we begin, let's define a few terms related to borrowing and lending. Now, to lend and to borrow kind of means the same thing. It just depends whose perspective you are viewing it from. If you are lending, you're giving. If you are borrowing, you are receiving. So someone will be on each end. That is why, if you think about it, a bank or banks are referred to as lenders because they lend money to people. People like you and me are referred to as borrowers because we receive that money from the bank. So borrowers and lenders are exactly the same. One is giving, one is receiving. As it says here, the difference between give and lend is if you lend something, it has to be returned to you. If you borrow something, you must return it to the person you're borrowing it from. So the return is the difference between give, receive, lend, and borrow. The preposition we use with lend is often to in most situations. The preposition that we use with borrow is borrow from. Yes. You get something from someone, you give something to someone. So those prepositions don't change. So if you ever hear lend from, it's wrong. If you ever hear borrow to, it's wrong. Yes. Okay. Payback. We use payback when we're talking about money or cash. It means to give back, but pay, because we use money to pay for things, we often refer to it with using cash. Give back or return is used for anything else, but we can also use it for money. Loan is a synonym of lend and borrow. It's a verb. Can you loan me some money? So that means can I borrow some money from you? I can loan you some money. It means I can give you some money to lend or lend you. So loan can also be used. A debt. When you borrow something, until you return it, you are in debt to the person or organization you borrowed the money or whatever from. Owe is a similar thing. It's a verb, to owe. To owe someone some money. Again, until you return something to someone, and it doesn't have to be money, it can be anything, you owe them. So, for example, if someone borrowed a book from me and they lost it, or they damaged it, or it got stolen, something like that, I could say, hey, you owe me a book because I lent the book to you. Now you must return a book to me. So we can use it for anything. So some of these will be in the questions. One or two maybe will not, but most of them will be in the questions. Okay. Format you should be familiar with by now. Answer the question, give a reason, give any extra information. How do you feel when people don't return things they borrow from you? It should be borrow, not borrowed, but doesn't matter. Do you like to lend things to others? Have you ever borrowed money from others? Have you ever borrowed books from others? So there are 4 questions. 4 reactions, 4 answers, for whatever you want to call them. Angry, upset, resolute. It happens. As you know, I choose one. I underline, for each answer there are expressions that are underlined and they're explained underneath. Okay, so I choose one of them. How do you feel when people don't return things they borrow from you? Angry. Angry most of the time. The fact that a person knows the unspoken rules about borrowing and chooses to ignore them makes my blood boil. Why do they do it? Okay, unspoken rules are things that we understand. If you borrow something, you know you must pay it back or return it. Sorry, the person you're borrowing it from shouldn't have to say to you, you must return this. This is an unspoken agreement. You don't need to say it. Okay. Do you like to lend things to others? Most times, on occasion, invariably, never. Invariably means kind of often, or I usually do. Invariably, I do. When someone plays on my emotions, it's hard not to give in. I wish I was a stronger person by character, but I am often a pushover and have been taken advantage of before. Have you ever borrowed money from others? Yes, on occasion, rarely, never. Never. I got this attitude from my parents, who always told me to save for what I want and only borrow for big things like a house, a car, or a business. I think that was great advice. Have you ever borrowed books from others? Probably. Let's use this one. Probably. I don't keep a track of these things, but I imagine that I've done this on many occasions. It's some, I think this is something that I've done since I first learnt to read. Again, you can adjust that, but when we borrow books and we borrow things, we don't remember exactly when we did it and how many times we did it. We don't keep a track of that because it's not important. What's important is every time we borrow something, we give it back. So we don't count and we don't remember when. Okay, that's the end of the lesson. 3 things. Okay, practice. Practice is the key. Make sure you're speaking English every day. Don't leave it till once a week. A week in between speaking is a long time. You forget things. Try to speak every day. If you can't think of any answers of your own, please feel free to use these answers and adapt some of the vocabulary to suit you. And the final piece of advice, please make sure you know what the topic or research is. Sorry, make sure you know what the topic is about or research it so you can come up with some answers. Okay, please subscribe as this helps us to make more videos. And please visit our website. We have Dumagetti IELTS, which has a wealth of IELTS information and videos and other material. And we have a courses site where you can actually purchase some online courses for very reasonable prices. Stay in touch and see you in the next video.